let me just say welcome back, everyone, to 16 Flights Up. This is part 2 of the big, beautiful bill tax budget cut spending, whatever you want to call it. We covered a few things right now as far as what did we cover already? The increase in the state and local tax deductions. We talked about the boost to defense and the border spending. Those are like some of the two main ones. So let's start off with them cutting clean energy incentives and reduction.
So what, like EV tax breaks?
Yeah. I don't know if this has a lot to do with the beef that Trump and Elon has going on, but I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either. Because cutting it, I think if you cut the EV tax break, you're giving Tesla an advantage.
Yeah.
Because Tesla is big, is pretty much like the main electric vehicle right now. And if you kind of get rid of that, it kind of decentivizes people from buying like a
I don't.
Ford electric car or pickup truck.
So
Or
wait. Let's clarify.
yeah,
I don't think he's giving them tax cuts. I think they're trying to get rid of this spending altogether.
that's what I'm saying. So like if they get rid of that spending that they would have otherwise been giving people the money for, like the buy incentive to buy the vehicle.
Oh, okay. I
Like
see what you're saying.
I think that goes into Elon's advantage more than disadvantage,
Yeah.
because there are smaller companies like, well, not really small, but other companies like Ford, Toyota, that are trying to create their own EVs, and it doesn't really incentivize them to buy their EVs anymore. Why would you buy theirs if you could just buy a Tesla?
Yeah.
And it's a lot cheaper.
I don't think he's happy,
Who?
Elon.
I don't think he is either, but I don't think it necessarily affects him as much as people probably think it does.
Yeah. So let's see. It says one of the most notable divisions between the House and the Senate Republic is the Senate proposed for clean energy tax breaks. Although both call for an end of the Biden era federal clean energy tax credits, Senate Republicans approve phasing them out more slowly. For instance, the Senate has extended the runway for businesses that build wind and solar farm for still benefit for the tax credit. However, both the House and the Senate version seeks to deny the credit to companies' whole supply chains may have ties to foreign entities and concerns such as China. Companies that begin construction this year could qualify for the full tax break. That drops to 60% in the beginning of construction in 2026 and 20% if they begin in 2027. The credit would disappear in 2028. The House version of the bill sought to end the tax breaks for those companies almost immediately. So let's get into clean energy.
Mm-hmm.
I've recently found out that it takes more
More what?
more fuel emissions into the environment to create clean energy. Is that true or is that false?
I always thought it was true, because
Okay.
you need coal to generate the
Yes.
electricity, and it's usually a little bit cleaner. But
So what's the point?
I think I thought the point originally was to kind of create a new infrastructure for people to get stuck in, because we have oil and gas,
Mhm.
and if we had electricity for vehicles, I feel like that's another way for them to kind of capitalize on something completely different. You're never going to be able to shut down oil and gas.
Yeah. So
So
just it's basically just another moneymaker.
I thought it was just a whole different infrastructure. It's a good idea,
Sounds nice.
because having choice is always great, especially if you're looking to buy something. You should be able to have the choice to buy what you want without having to take like compromise.
Yeah.
So like if you wanted to live in a house that was ran off of 100% like solar energy or wind energy, you should be able to have that option, but it shouldn't be the only option. You
Right.
shouldn't try to eliminate other infrastructures because you think this is the right way to go.
So the solar power, the wind powered, and most farms that's working off of the environment around them, I think those are beneficial. But as far as like the cars, like what it takes to create the batteries, as far as the cars itself, to have them run the way they run off of electricity, I think
And
The
then,
amount of power that you need to run a lot of this stuff, I think that's kind of ridiculous. I don't really care for EV cars, to be honest.
I mean, the mining of rare earth minerals is pretty polluted in it within itself. Like you're using machinery that is not electric to dig up and find these rare
Yeah,
minerals, and
just
using like slave labor.
just backwards work, right? It's kind of pointless, to be honest.
I could see the benefits. Like there are times where I was thinking like, oh, if my house was like, if I lived in an area that had unstable electricity, I think solar is probably like the way to go because you don't have to really rely on a grid. You just need the sun. So like if
Yeah, but those emissions are a lot less formidable than the cards itself, though, right? Like having solar panel and wind panel isn't really
well
causing the environment as much harm as EV cars.
the solar panels and the wind turbines are just charging the batteries that are still in the cars.
Oh,
They're just generators to keep the battery charged.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's not like the sun goes down into the solar panel and just it goes into your house and it makes it, light up. It goes into a battery that goes into a reserve. So whenever you do use your electricity,
It's fine.
it's ready to
It's ready to
use
use.
and
Okay.
you don't have to worry about like spending money on the power grid to use your electricity. So whenever the electricity is out and transformer blows or something like that, you don't have to worry about waiting for your local electrical company to go and fix it. You can just always have electricity because it's
Okay.
in a backup battery.
Yeah, I don't really care about this too much. The clean energy and insensitive. I mean, that might sound insensitive, but I
I
don't.
think calling it clean is a little bit misleading,
Yeah, it doesn't
but
sound too clean to me.
the resources that go into creating these batteries, finding the batteries, creating the batteries, and then
It's a lot. It's a
and
lot.
then rolling
Yeah.
the batteries out, and it's really, I wouldn't say much better than just having a diesel or a gas vehicle.
Yeah.
But
You might as well. If you're going to use the same, from what I understand, they use more resources
mm,
trying to make the stuff
yeah,
than they actually would just letting it be the way it is.
mm,
So I don't know. I don't really care too much about that. I think that's actually, I mean, as of right now, until a new source of type of energy comes along, which I'm sure will happen. But like as of right now, for how much money we're spending, I don't think this is a horrible cut. I think this is just the administration itself. Like, Biden ran specifically on clean energy. That was his forte. That's what people got behind. And Trump's like, well, I don't care. People are behind me for other things, not for this. So I mean, I get that. That's whatever. That doesn't really bother me. Okay, so that's a small thing to this, and I do wonder if that has something to do with, like, I don't think it does, but I could see Trump being petty and just giving Elon the finger, like, fuck you, bro.
like I said, I don't think it really bothers, like I don't think it really causes that much damage
To
to
him,
Elon as it does the other people.
yeah.
But at the same time, like having an incentive to buy an electric vehicle is really nice, especially in a time
Or a
where,
different type of EV vehicle instead of buying Elon's.
oh, so you're saying like, well, that would be like targeting Elon
Oh,
Musk.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But
they're
like
never
I don't think that's gonna happen. I
can't
don't think
prove
that's a
it.
thing.
Prove it. If I was Trump, I'd be like, prove it, bro. Prove that I'm targeting
Yeah.
you. I'll never forget the amount of money that me, Vince, and Corey lost on
Lucid.
Lucid, dude. Ugh, fucking Lucid. Anyway, all right. So next part: no tax on overtime, tips, and other elements. This is interesting. So the no tax on tips provision is a budget bill that would mark the win for the Trump's promise during the campaign. The Senate bill became considered if the House would allow individuals to deduct a certain amount of tip wages and overtime from their taxes. However, they propose gradually phasing out those benefits based on annual income, starting at $150,000 and individuals and $300,000 for joint filers. Um, it would expire in 2028. The Senate legislation would also permanently increase the child tax credit to $2,200, which is $300 less than what the House lawmakers had eyed. The House version required both parents to have a Social Security number, but the Senate okayed the requirement of only one parent. The upper chamber's bill also proposed raising the debt ceiling by 5 trillion more than the 4 trillion approved by the House last month. The debt ceiling is a limit on the amount of money the US government can borrow to pay its bills. Lifting the debt limit allowed the debt limit to allow the government to pay for programmees allowed already approved by Congress. So, okay. One, how much are bartenders making? Because that's not just bartenders, anyone that's in the
Like service industry.
service industry.
Yeah.
Who's making $150,000 a year in the service industry?
I could see that including tips, but I don't see that like as a base salary.
150 even with tips?
I know some people that make like not 150,000, but they make more than I would say like somebody that works 40 to 50 hours a week in like a $30 to $35 an hour job.
So the other question is who's claiming tips?
Yeah. I think we discussed this before. Like it depends. Like sometimes if you go to a bar,
Yeah,
you give your
credit card.
You can do that too, but like cash. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you just want to go out and you know what you have whenever you spend it. So you give a tip to the waitress or whoever's serving you, and they just kind of put that in their pocket. Whereas like if you're paying with a credit card and you put a tip on there, probably keeps track in their system, and they probably have to.
Okay.
Or if they combine all their tips together, like the restaurant does, and then they tally it up at the end of the night and they distribute it evenly throughout all the waitresses and waiters, maybe the restaurant itself has to report how much was made through that night.
Through the
So that way
cards
they can assure that the people that were working there are
getting paid.
actually, well, not getting, well, that too, yeah. But making sure that they're paying tax on their tips.
I don't see the average service member making 150,000 a year.
Not that much. I think that's kind of ridiculous. That might be like
Dude,
the 10, like top 10%.
They said starting at 150 to individuals making 300,000. That's literally no one. I only see about 1% to 5% of these people making 150,000.
Well, the 350,000 was joint custody, or was a joint
Together.
right.
Okay.
So maybe like I don't. That mean they have to both be in service, or would that mean that one's in service and that's enough, and then let's say your husband or wife makes 300,000, they already hit that cap.
So what are they considering tips? Is it just in the service industry? Because you could tip for a lot of shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably where it's primarily like seen.
So do you not get the tax cut if you make under 150,000?
Could you read it again?
So it says the Senate bill began considering the House would allow individuals to deduct a certain amount of tip wages, overtime, from their taxes. However, they propose gradually phasing out those benefits based on annual income, starting at 150,000. So they're saying if you make okay, I see what they're saying.
Yeah.
If you make over 150 to 300,000, you don't get the benefit. So anything under 150,000, you're getting
that makes more sense because
Okay, I get that.
I couldn't imagine like many people in the service industry making like anywhere close to that unless you're like working in somewhere that is
Overtime's done.
You mean like
overtime's
they're
done.
not gonna
Jobs aren't gonna approve that. It's gonna be so hard to get approved for overtime now. Because companies made money off of that. It was a tax write-off, right? Like, and I hate, I agree with you. I hate it. So when I used to work at the hospital and we used to do overtime, we used to get regular pay, time and a half, and an X amount of money for working OT. So say I worked an extra 15 hours or extra 15, 20 hours that week on top of what I already made. That's like an extra, I'm just throwing out numbers. That would be like an extra $1,500. The taxes the company would take would be like $500. So I got an extra $1,000 for working that week when it was really 15. The company made that off because they wrote that off at the end of the year. That was like one of their biggest budget cuts. They would write that off at the end of the year because whatever, right? Now they're not about to just let people, because they have to pay them that.
Now, is that a good thing? People get to spend more time with their family. They don't have to work overtime. Because there are some jobs where you're like, I don't want to work overtime. Like, for example, whenever I worked at the steel mill, mandatory overtime every week, 84 hours total was for the week,
Okay.
Monday through Saturday. Terrible. Hated it. Didn't want to do it, but I did it because I just wanted the money. But what if there was like a person that wanted to work that job but didn't want to work 84 hours, and that decentivizes the company to make them work the 84 hours?
So in your case, that would be a good thing because they would take that out of being mandatory,
Unless they really needed it
and they would have to
and
make
they
it
would
happen.
have to pay it out.
Yeah. But other than that, they would take that out. Most companies do not want to pay you full overtime prices.
So I could see that being like, now if you're looking to make a ton of money, like if that is what you make, like you're living off of is the overtime and not the actual wage itself. Like if you have a
Yeah.
job that pays 2 times overtime, like and a bonus for just staying the extra hours anyways, like that could, like people probably count that into their normal salary
Right.
instead of the 40 hours a week where, I mean, that's probably how I would imagine most people would want to live, is
Yeah.
what they can make off the 40 hours just in case they don't get that overtime anymore.
Yeah. Because the
So
overtime is never like
guaranteed.
it always fluctuated.
Yeah. And the
Right.
amount you got was fluctuated too.
Yeah, fluctuated, especially if you did overtime like consistently.
But I feel like that generally decentivizes people or companies, greedy companies, to like force you to stay, not force you, but like make it more common for overtime to be a thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this neither.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really I'm not in the service industry. I don't really know. I guess that it's going to help out a lot of people, but I also think these jobs are going to start screwing people over and not trying to give them that overtime. Um,
Yeah. I mean, like I always hated paying taxes on overtime because like
you're
40
taxing me twice.
44 hours of
Yeah.
me working over what is required of me, and you're gonna tax me for it
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
a lot. It's not like a small tax, it's
Yeah.
like,
Taxing me twice is crazy.
but you get that back whenever you get your tax return,
Yeah.
but not all of it. But
So I mean, I guess I just play this one right here. I don't really have any opinions on the no tax on overtime or tips because I don't really have overtime or tips. I
mhm,
don't really deal with tips. I never really dealt with too much overtime, and it wasn't enough overtime that would even make me think about something like that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I think this was just a filler for the bill to get people on board, but we shall see. That's another one to keep an eye on. Um,
probably would be better just for people running these companies that are in the service industry to just pay their employees an appropriate wage. That way they don't have to worry
oh,
about.
they're not doing that.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah,
wouldn't it
that's
just
never going.
kind of make more sense to?
It would, but that's never going to happen. The cost of again, restaurants have to deal with this too. The cost of food.
Yeah.
Prices are going to go up for going out to eat, and they're going to keep the $2.50 of what they're paying them because they're expecting them to make their money off of tips.
Which is messed up. I think that's kind of messed up.
I don't know.
But I never had a restaurant before, and I
I
know
don't.
it's hard. I know there's a high failure rate.
I don't think it's messed up. And the reason I say that is because if you, I think people misunderstand how a lot of this economic stuff works, right? Like if people realized how much they were going to make in the service industry, and they said that, oh, you're only paying me $2.50 hours or $2.50 an hour or $4.50. I think the most I ever heard was like $4.50. Don't work it. Because what's going to happen is that restaurant is going to have to pay you a minimum wage to bring people in because they can't run that restaurant by themselves. if they were to do strikes like they're doing, like right now, there's a strike going on in Philly. I think it's the track. I think it's like ACMFME or some shit. I don't know. I think I'm probably saying that wrong. But anyway, there is a trash the Bureau of Trash in Philly right now is on strike. So the mayor actually told the residents of Philly that they need to drop off their trash in specific areas of the city. And when I tell you, it is a shit show. It is a shit show. At some point, you're going to have to give these workers what they want because you can't let this build up like this in your city.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that can go wrong, right? So if people wanted restaurants to actually pay them, don't go.
Well, the people that are striking in Philadelphia, are they a part of a union?
It is a union.
So
Yeah,
I
the
think
service
that's
industry
that's a
is a union.
little. I think
Service
that's a little
industry
bit
is a union.
different.
Well, you don't have to be a union to boycott a restaurant. You could just not fuck it. Just tell everybody, your employees, like, don't go. The restaurant will fail. People don't want to lose their business. They'll sacrifice that, right? Like they would have to. If everybody in the United States got on social media, if everyone treated these restaurants like they treated, uh, what was the dude cat that fucked up GameStop Kitty,
His name.
not his. I forget his name too. I can every time I get on the pod, I forget these names. So it wasn't
So
Hello.
like,
I was
what
about
what
to
is the
say
question
Hello
you're asking?
Hello Kitty. If they would just get online and just say we're not going to work for $2.50 across the United States,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone who worked in the service industry stopped going to work, and these restaurants will stop to close because they can't service the people, I'll give it like 3 or 4 days. They would tell them we're going to change the minimum wage. They would have no choice. Do you know how much money that would be across the United? People going out to eat, hours of being served because they have now the chefs are going to have to run the food. It's impossible. It's an impossible task, especially for busy restaurants. Now we're not talking about like your McDonald's, your Wendy's, your Taco Bell's, your Burger King. Like fuck that. That's not really right. Like we're talking about your sit down places like your Eaton Parks or Hard Rock Cafe or your diners or that have a turnover rate of high people coming in, Bar Louie. If these servers stop going to work, these restaurants would be corporate would have to relook at they would have to readjust their budget and pay their employees a certain amount. Now, there would be a side effect. They would hire less waitress and waiters.
Yeah, because you're paying more money to the.
Yep.
You expect more out of them, and there will be less of them.
Yep. And they would be very, very selective on who they hire,
Yeah.
instead of just hiring anyone because that's the turnover rate for the service industry is pretty high. But I mean that's a whole nother thing. So I mean hopefully that works out in their benefit as far as like the no tip. So I guess we'll see how that goes. Um but damn, what was his name? I still want to think of his name because like if people got online and did Dumb Money, it was actually a Netflix for Dumb Money. The GameStop Frenzy. What was his name? Roaring Kitty. That's it. His name. It was his name. Keith Gill. That was his name. If everyone did what he did for stocks and he got online and he told all the service members stop going to work. We're going to get you higher wages and pay. But that
And I don't
it's
think anybody's actually going to do that
no
because it's
fuck no.
like
It's hard getting
a
people
lot of
together
people
to do
kind of
shit.
just like live paycheck to paycheck, and if they don't get a paycheck, they kind of get kicked out of their place.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. So all right, so the next one would be do. I'll do Social Security last. I don't really care about too much of Social Security. I mean, I do, but we'll do that one last because that's now. Here's a big one. No, you know what? I'll do this one last. I'll do Social Security next. So Social Security taxes. On the campaign trail, Trump vowed to eliminate taxes on Social Security income, monthly payments for Americans' retirement ages of people with retirement ages and people with disabilities. The House bill fell short to deliver on this promise, which is fucked up. But it did temporarily increase the standard deductions for up to $4,000 for individuals of 65 and over. The deductions would be in place from 2025 to 2028, which is pretty decent. Senate Republicans approved the extension for Social Security tax break and to increase that would grant 6,000 tax deduction for older Americans who earn no more than 75,000 a year. That seems low. An extension of Social Security tax breaks to increase. Okay, I mean, 6 grand for making no more than 75. So you have to make under 75,000 to get the tax deduction.
I feel like that applies to a lot of people.
I mean, it will, 1,000%.
Yeah, that applies to a lot of people.
Yeah, 1,000%. But they didn't eliminate the taxes on Social Security. They actually increased it. So people are going to be paying more in taxes instead of not paying anything. They were expecting to pay anything. They increased it. Monthly payments for American retirement ages, yeah, they increased it. The House bill fell short to deliver its promise. And it's going to temporarily increase the deduction to 4,000. So that 6,000 after getting deducted it doesn't even fucking matter. Which is crazy because that's the only income that they have. These older people are going to have to go back to work.
If they didn't save.
That's a lot of people.
If they didn't save.
That's a lot of people, Brady. It's a lot. Well, okay. That's one part. I'm not going to get too much into that because Social Security is a pretty touchy. That's pretty touchy. But I will get into the Medicaid because the Medicaid is going to affect a lot of moms, a lot of children, a lot of older people, a lot of people who don't have jobs that depend on Medicaid. So, steep, and I'll say this again, steep cuts to Medicaid. This is probably one of the biggest arguments of the left that they proposed against the bill. Even some conservative Republicans were like, no, we can't do this. Again, this is going to affect people in rural areas that don't have medical coverage through jobs because there are not enough jobs out there to do that. So they're on Medicaid. Like this is going to hit them. This is going to hit them hard. And then the problem with this is like people who do have, before I read this, people have to understand all of this is chained economics. It's all connected, right? Like for the people who are on Medicaid, the reason hospitals are able to service those Medicaid patients is because the premiums on private insurance are so high that the hospitals are able to assist you with that. So if you have a past due bill, so say for example, you go to the emergency room and you can't afford the $5,000 bill. The hospital eats that cost and passes off a percentage of making that money up to the private insurance companies. The insurance companies pays they cover that, and then the insurance companies turn around and charge you a little bit more every year. That's why back in the 90s, your insurance bill was so cheap. And it's like now you look at your insurance bills for working for you, you're like, damn, they took $275 out of my check when they normally take $260. That's because it's gradually going up due to the people who don't have health insurance or people who can't cover their bills. So it's all connected. So when people say, oh, this isn't going to affect me, yes, it will, right? Like the way the American economy is tied together, just look at it like the cost of everything is passed off, right? Like scammers, when they scam for credit card companies don't eat that scam. They pass it off to people who's actually paying their bills. They raise their rates. Instead of 2%, oh, it's going to be 4%. Right? So I like the cuts are going to be pretty, it's going to be pretty bad. So let's read this. It says, to help finance tax cuts elsewhere, the Republicans have added an additional restriction to Medicaid. The healthcare programmees relied upon by millions of disabled and low-income Americans. Um, One of the changes in a new work requirement for childless adults without disabilities. Another change to the Medicaid shifting enrollment for once a year to every 6 months and adding income and residency verification. I don't disagree with that. I think that is a plus of this. I do think people still it's giving you an incentive to still work, even though unless you're like on Medicaid and you're like extremely disabled, like hard to get around, you're in a wheelchair, you can't see, obviously you're autistic in some way or shape or form. But if you're a working body person and you're able to go to work and you're just like milking the government, you should show some type of verification. Right? I think that's bullshit. I think you just getting by off of the government's dime is bullshit. Like I think we can all agree on that. Right? So I think that's a plus. Now this is where it gets kind of messed up. There's also lower provider taxes, which in some states used to help fund their share of the Medicaid cost from 6% to 3.5% by 2032. Now, what that means is they're basically saying that the government is only going to fund a specific amount of cost for the Medicaid, and the rest of it is going to be covered by the states. Now, I think the states is going to give a big fu to a lot of people.
How do you do that?
I don't think the states are going to have the money to cover it. There's too many cuts being cut too fast. That's why I said like the DOE being cut, um, SNAP being cut, Medicaid being cut. That's a lot of cuts that the states are going to have to make up for. They don't have they barely had the budget of making it with government assistance. Where is the state going to get all this money from? Where is it coming from? Local taxes are going to go up. Business taxes are going to go up. Property taxes in that state are going to go up because how else do you cover this stuff? All of it's paid by taxes. That's a lot of the reasons. Like when people start thinking about it like that, that makes it more understandable of saying it doesn't matter how much this tax cut is going to help out the middle class because yeah, it looks like at the end of the year I'm paying less taxes, but the rest of this shit up on a daily basis it's going to go up because how do you pay for it? If they're cutting Medicaid costs and they're going to say that the state is going to have to cover 6% to 3.5%, how are they going to cover that? So complaints for the Republicans in the state draw funding from these taxes, especially for the rural hospitals, lead to the Senate to delay the cut to add 50 billion rural hospital funds. Now, that's also another thing. Rural areas and hospitals, the majority of their funding come from Medicaid patients. It's not private insurance. So if that money stops flowing in from the government, what happens to these hospitals in those areas? You're talking about there's some rural areas that have one hospital in a 20-mile radius. Unlike, the city where like I'm literally right down the street from a hospital.
Yeah.
Right? There's like 3 hospitals around here. There's like there's literally a dentist office right here, which is not a hospital, but you see what I'm saying? Like everything is basically close. Oakland, there's no hospital. There's a hospital right down the street. UPMC, what is that? Presby? I think that's Presby Hospital. But it's close, right? I don't think a lot of that is made up of Medicaid patients. And we have so many that it'd be very, very difficult to shut down every single one of these hospitals. But like in rural areas, for them to have one hospital with that amount of radius and that hospital shut down, what do those people do? Like they don't have Med Express in a lot of rural areas. So what would you do if these hospitals started shutting down? A lot of the hospitals in those rural areas are already concerned that they're not going to be able to keep up with cost. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if the government stepped in and gave funding, like they just said. They said that they're going to add $50 billion to rural hospital funds. So I guess that, but how long and what are the stipulations?
Yeah, how do you even like? I'm not even sure how a hospital could even like. Not really sure what I'm trying to say here. Uh,
Like regulate it?
well, like, how do they know who gets what amount?
They don't. They don't. I don't. Oh, I don't think. I don't think they do. I don't think they know. I think the biggest. Who's the biggest hospital? That's normally
Like
that's
biggest
normally
as
how it
in like the
goes.
amount of people that regularly go there,
Yeah,
or biggest as in like
both. Biggest on the amount of people that are at the hospital and how big the hospital is. I mean, that would be my guess about it. Are you private? Are you a monopoly type of hospital? Like the city of Pittsburgh, I mean, UPMC is basically a monopoly of hospitals in the surrounding Pittsburgh area, right? In PA alone, right? It's a huge entity. But you do have your smaller hospitals like Allegheny General Hospital. You do have like St. Clair. You have a few private hospitals, but I don't think they receive as much funding as UPMC would. So what would the big extra plug say? The biggest, the baddest. That's basically what that's exactly what it's about to be. You know what I mean? So, and they also said the Senate bill also proposed tightening eligibility requirements so that able-bodied adults with children aged 15 and over would need to work or volunteer at least 80 hours a month. Ah, good fuck
15.
15, bro. Let me read that again. Let me read that again to make sure I said that right. It says the Senate bill also proposed tightening eligible requirements so that able-bodied adults with children ages 15 and over would need to work. Able-bodied adults with children ages 15 and over would need to work or volunteer at least 80 hours a month. Yeah, fucking right, bro. There's no way. There's no how are they going to check? Are they going to make them submit their jobs and like check with their how do you do that? Are you going to submit a pay stub?
That might be. Well, if it's volunteer work, there is no pay stub.
Right. So how do you people would just put on there, oh, I worked here for 8 hours a week. Or I did this is what I did all month. Are the companies gonna have to verify this? That's a lot of work on the government's end to check to make sure that shit happens. Like who's checking that? Is AI gonna check that for them?
I don't think AI is in the government yet.
Well, I don't know how they would check any of this. Who's checking this shit? Who's approving this?
I wonder if there's a form that like companies have to fill out whenever there's volunteers to keep track of like because I mean, imagine there has to be something like that, right? Because like let's say you get on parole and you need to do a certain amount of volunteer hours as your parole.
Yeah, but that's not the government checking. That's your local police
But
officers.
I'm saying like there has to be some way for them to check. So why wouldn't there be some way for the government to check?
That's true.
So there probably is some sort of
Yeah, those are for your
a
POs. Yeah, so
process to like there's probably some sort of government process to show that like you are doing whatever amount of work a
the in-
week or a month.
so the incentive, which
But 80 hours a month. Well, so like the 15-year old is that like the parent has to be
they're
15?
saying if the child is 15, they need to be working.
But is that child considered a parent?
No, they're saying the parent who's on Medicaid. And
Okay,
if they
so
have a child that's age 15, they also need to be working.
they
So
okay,
anybody under the age of 15, the parent is the person that has to qualify for it.
yeah.
But if your child is like 15 and up, they also need to be working for you to be able to qualify for it. I think that's bullshit. I think that's bullshit.
That's for anyone that's under 18, I think it should be reduced. Like I mean, I worked whenever I was like I got a job whenever I was 15. I was
Yeah,
working
but that
40,
was a
but like
choice.
exactly. So like if you needed to have that as a benefit, like it shouldn't be 80 hours a month for a 15-year-old.
I don't think no child under the age of 18 should have to work
Yeah.
to receive benefits.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
kind of that should be strictly on the parent.
that should be a parent.
Yeah.
You should put those requirements on the parent. To put that in a household of a 15-year-old is fucking insane to me.
Yeah. I
You're
think that's
you're
a little
you're taking
ridiculous.
away so much life. We're already working at 21 and older. You want to start them at 15? Come on. This is not American shit. I don't care what anyone says. I think this is nonsense. Now, the requirements to be eligible for a lot of this, if you're an able body, okay, that makes sense. But they're not going to get that though. At least 80 hours a month, no one's going to be on Medicaid. You have to think who Medicaid is going to. Where are they going to work? One of the reasons why they're on Medicaid is because they can't find work.
Well, they said volunteer too, so you could work for like your local like food bank or fire department or whatever. I'm just saying, like it doesn't have to
I feel
be
you, but that's
church, volunteer at church,
that's fucking crazy.
but I'm sure that, there's probably people that just kind of like say that you work the 80 hours a month and you just get it.
This is the biggest grapple with this bill. All right, so the other part is the Senate Medicaid work requirement is said to be the strictest ever proposed by the Republicans, raising the odds that large number of Americans could lose medical coverage as they would not keep up with the new paperwork. There's no way. I didn't even have to read that to know that that was going to happen.
Yeah. That's a lot of paperwork, especially with like what they already have to do.
Yeah.
Like that's
A lot
just
of Americans can't
ridiculous.
even read.
I think that's kind of weird too. The
It
fact
is
that like,
weird.
you know, pe- illiteracy is still like a thing in 2025. I think
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's really
But it's
crazy.
like you paid for what you get. You cannot be mad that people in the United States are uneducated when you do not put money into the education system. Like you cannot be upset when teachers are getting paid. Literally, the average teacher. Look up how much the average teacher is, because I don't want to say the wrong thing. I'm going to say they're getting paid anywhere between $30,000 to $40,000 a year.
Do you want to like specify like high school, middle school, elementary school, or do you
Do
want?
average throughout teaching in general.
Okay.
I'm going to say anywhere between 30. I'll 45. I'll give 45.
My guess is 37. Let's see here. So the starting teacher salary is 46,000.
46,000
Starting on average.
on average.
On average, nationwide.
Okay. And that doesn't go up too much unless you have like 10 years under your belt.
So the so the starting, so like if you just came out of school and you want to be a teacher, you're making 46-ish thousand, and then if you have like some years under your belt, upwards of like 70, 72,000. But I don't know if that's college level
What is that? That's not.
or if like that's
I don't believe that. I don't think that's. What state is that? Is that a specific
this
state
is
or just
nationwide.
nationwide?
This is nationwide.
Okay.
In America.
Okay. All right. Either way, that's still not enough. Starting out. And then you also got to think they're not working all of summer, so that money is added into. All right, so 46,000, right? they're still bringing home like what, 36?
After tax?
That's after taxes.
Yeah.
They're only bringing home 36,000. So okay, so that's let me clarify. So when I say anywhere between 35,000 to 45,000, I'm talking after taxes. They're only bringing home like
take
30.
home.
Take home is
Yeah.
like 37,000. $37,000. You expect these teachers to give a fuck about these students for $36,000? Imagine and I went to a school that had 20 kids in one classroom. 5 of them were problems. You ever
Yeah.
try to take care of one kid with a problem? Imagine 5 kids in a classroom that's taught like, oh, fuck that. I'm not teaching you. Do whatever you want, bro.
And then if your school doesn't have like a special section for people with like mental disabilities,
It's
like
over.
whenever I was in elementary school, like we didn't have I mean there were like caregivers for people with special needs, but
Yeah.
they were in the same class as us. They
Yeah.
were learning the same material we were. So like we would have like a depending on like what class it was cuz like we would have like a buddy and that would be somebody that had like a disability. So
Yeah.
like for example in our computer class, I had a student. His name was Joey. He was autistic, and he was wheelchair bound, and I had to kind of like help him if he asked for help.
Right.
But his caregiver was there, like obviously making sure that he was all right. But like they would they would integrate the people with special needs with the regular students because
Special needs teachers.
there was no curriculum for the people with special eds.
Yeah. They didn't have the classes for it.
And
That's because
now
they didn't have funding.
and through high school, that's when they got their own teachers, they got their own rooms, they had their own education, like they had their
It's
own.
because they had more funding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Like I think if they wanted to correct a lot of the people reading in this country, they need to change the way they pay these teachers. They need to make these teachers care. But you got to think, because like a lot of teachers, they try to go to specific school districts. The districts that need the help the most are the ones that they don't want to be in, because the kids are so bad. It's a perpetual cycle. Like they say, oh, like a lot of the poor areas don't have this, and the third. Well, yeah, the city isn't providing anything for these low income areas. They're expecting these kids just to know what they're expecting them to go to school and sit down. We need to talk about, and it's that's going into a whole nother, because it's all tied. Low income areas, no jobs, crime rates are high, kids don't know how to focus, the parents don't want to help the kids. It's all intertwined into each other. There's a lot of things that need to happen on the back end, but for the teachers to actually care about what's going on, they need to be paid more. For them to actually care, so they can show the students like, hey, there's a better way that you can do life than what you have been seeing in your environment. Let this be a safe place. And a lot of schools aren't safe place for kids. Now, do not get me wrong, there are a lot of teachers out there that do care.
I think most teachers care.
There's a lot of teachers that care.
I think that's
I'm not
why
going
you
to sit
go into
here.
that field in the
Yeah.
first place because you genuinely
Yeah,
care.
I'm not going to sit here and say that these teachers don't care.
Yeah.
But I think it's extremely draining to worry about the cost of living of what's happening nowadays, and also going back and teaching a child that is extremely difficult to teach. And you're not just doing it with one kid. You're doing it every hour.
Yeah.
With multiple kids that come into your classroom. So you're dealing with multiple personalities on a level basis that I can't even comprehend.
And it's
Right?
different kids too, because
different
like you have
kids.
first period all the way through
Yeah.
12th period. So you have
Yeah.
new
And that's
kids
every
coming
day.
in every day.
And you're expecting me to do this? You're expecting me to do this for $36,000 a year?
That's tough. That's a challenge. I mean,
I might as well go to McDonald's or Chick-fil-A.
That's what a lot of our teachers did.
They left.
They didn't leave. They had a second job. So like
That's still a lot.
our teacher, like everyone, like this one teacher in our school, she was our Spanish teacher, and we found out that she was working at like a TGI Fridays. So
Yeah, I used to go there and mess with her.
So we would always go there and be like,
See?
can we sit in her section?
See? I don't have time
And,
for your shit.
I
I didn't piss me off.
They obviously didn't want to see us during school, let alone like after school.
You ever see the movie Waiting?
No.
Y'all would have pissed me off to that point. If you ever seen that movie, it's hilarious. But I mean, I don't know. That's
But for
yeah,
them to have to take up 2 jobs in just to cover their bills,
it's crazy.
it is crazy.
Educators, you're teaching the generation. I mean, I personally think the agenda of America is to dumb down a lot of people because we need workers instead of people who can actually think on their own. And I think China is just thinking in a different. You know what? I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole nother pot. Let's stick to the topic. We'll get back to that later. But also, so the last part about this, so basically, a lot of people are going to be kicked off because they won't understand the paperwork. On top of the hours that they have to commit, they might not be able to do it. The last part to this is the Congressional Budget Office estimates that nearly 12 million Americans could lose their health coverage by the end of the next decade as a result of these changes. That's going to be a shit show. It's going to be a shit show. Homeless is going to increase. The amount of money that we're going to have to pay for our insurance that you have, private insurance, is going to go up. Medical bills are going to go up. Medication is going to go up. Um, Healthcare assistance is going to go up. Now, if you're looking into starting a business, I would say in the next 10 or 15 years is definitely going to be extremely profitable. Insurance companies are going to pay out for older people going into homes that aren't. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's going to be programs, right? There's going to be programs as an initiative to select a few people that's going to get coverage or whatever paid for a certain amount. But the rest of these people, a lot of the older generation, they're going to have to move in with their children.
I see potentially a big opportunity in like holistic stuff,
Yes.
like supplements
Yep.
or like alternatives to pharmaceutical medicines. And I mean, the amount of money that's already in that and how much I wouldn't even say it's like I don't know, I can't really put a comparison on how much like a pharmaceutical would cost compared to like a supplement, but
Trillions.
supplements are like so much money.
Mhm.
But I would imagine if it's a third or fifth or a tenth cheaper than what the pharmaceutical is charging, like I could see a bunch of like older people moving to more holistic practices rather than going to the hospital
Yeah,
or
that's
going
pretty.
to a doctor.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
So I mean,
So, yeah, I mean, people just read over this bill. The bill was actually pretty long. It's a lot longer than what I'm sharing with you because the one big beautiful bill, there's a lot to it. Extensions on modifications of rates, extensions on increase in standard deduction of temporary enhancements, termination of deduction for personal exemptions, extensions and increase in child tax credit and temporary enhancements, extension of deductions for qualified businesses, income and permit enhancements, extension and increase in state and gift tax exemptions. There's a lot to this, and most of it, the majority of the stuff that I'm reading, the extension of limitation of deduction of qualified residents' interest, extension of limitations of casualty of loss deductions, termination of itemized deductions, limitation on tax benefits and itemized deductions, termination of qualified bicycle commuting and reimbursement exclusion, extension of limitation and exclusion and deduction for moving expenses, extension of limitation of wages and losses, extensions on increase and limitation of contributions to able accounts and permanent enhancements. People don't even know what that is. A lot of this is for rich people. A lot of these deductions are for people who are making an extreme amount of money. That's why you're not going to understand anything that you're looking at. Extension to treatment for certain individuals performing services in a Sinai peninsula of enhancement, including additional areas. Offshore accounts. That's what we're talking about. I don't know, Brady. Do you have an offshore account?
no, I don't.
I mean, I don't
Maybe I
have an
should.
offshore account. We should,
Yeah,
but
maybe we should.
we should look into that. I'm willing to go on a joint account with you. But no tax on now. Part two is the additional tax relief for American families and workers. This is how they bring you into the fold to make you feel like I'm with you, brother. I'm with you on this. We're gonna do it together.
Yeah.
Right? They tell you no tax on tips. Oh, I'm not gonna tip your not gonna tax you. Why would you tax my tips anyway, bro?
Yeah. It's the
It's a
well,
day. It's like you're
yeah.
putting a piece of meat in front of my face. What's the commercial with the dude with the
With the fishing string.
oh, you almost got it.
Yeah.
You almost got it. You almost got it. Just a little closer. And he fucks you, right? He pulls it back and you're like, you're cooked. So I don't understand. No tax on overtime. Why would you tax my overtime in the first place? Leave it alone. Let me fucking have it, bro. Enhanced on deduction for seniors. Shouldn't mess with any of the seniors. It's like you have no respect for the elderly anymore. Like it's kind of like fuck them. That's shady. They already worked their entire lives, and then you're gonna mess with them while they're 70. Like, this is just no tax on car loan interest. I'm not mad at that, but who gives a fuck? Who cares? Like, what do I fuck? Not everyone has a car.
Yeah.
Enhancement on employee provided child care credit, paid family and medical leave credit, adoption credit, Indian tribal government and for purposes of determining whether a child has special needs for purpose of additional credit, tax credit to contribute for individual scholarships and granting organizations, specifically to charter schools. What? No public schools, bro? Like, what do we talk? MAGA account. That's section. Matt, they literally have this in here. Section 110115. MAGA accounts. MAGA accounts contribution. Pilot programs. Part 3, investing in health for the American family and workers. This is and it goes on. This is long. This is a lot of stuff. And the majority of these qualifications and what you need isn't for the average American. Termination for clean hydrogen production credits, phased out restriction advancement in manufacturing production credits, like this, like it I can't even, I don't have enough time to read through all of this. Like it is impossible. But if you sat down and read some of this stuff, it would be eye-opening because it's actually kind of crazy reading a lot of this. And that was only a page, just like 4 pages. And that's just the index, right? We didn't actually get into breaking down what some of these bills actually are. And a lot of this is just insane. But we shall see. I guess time will tell what would happen. So to end this, I'll give you the numbers of the estimated increase in saving in the US federal spending for the bill. So basically, the whole point of this tax cut is showing you how much money they're actually going to spend and how much money they're saving. So the cumulative cost increase over the next 10 years, the tax cut extension is going to be $4.5 trillion. $4.5 trillion. That's how much they're going to spend for this bill. They're basically saying they're going to take for the defense, they're spending 150 billion for the defense, and then for the borders, they're going to spend 129 billion. The total savings over the next 10 years. Medicaid. This is how much money they're going to save with Medicaid due to the cuts. Actually, do me a favor before I say that. How much money does America spend on Medicaid a year? No, 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 no. Do How much money do average Americans spend on Medicaid from the year 2000 to 2010? Let's do that. Let's do a 10-year span.
So the answer that I got was in 2000, it was about $5,900, and then 2010 it was $6,200
Is that for individual person?
per enrollee.
How much was it?
In 2000, it was $5,900. In 2010, it was $6,200.
Okay, so let's do 2010. $6,200. So do $6,200 times 71.3 million. How much money is that being spent? Probably a few billion, I'm guessing.
What was the number? The second number?
71.3 million. And again, that includes children, pregnant women, adults, senior, and people with disabilities. How many billion? How much? How much?
One sec.
What's that? 400 billion. 440 billion. Right? Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I got like 400 and God.
440 billion. 820. No. Yeah. 440 billion. 820 million. Right? That's basically okay. So that means that was in 2010. So they're cutting, and the total savings over the next 10 years, they're cutting 930 billion in Medicaid.
It's a lot.
The numbers that we just showed, right? And we're giving grace, right? That's 440 billion. We're just talking about 2010, right? Because the medical field doesn't really change too much. It normally changes like every 12, 24 years as far as like their prices and everything. It goes on average. I mean, there are some factors that increase in certain states depending on what's happening or the flu or whatever epidemic is happening within that state, bird flu or whatever the fuck is the case. But 440 billion, 71 million Americans are on Medicaid. They're cutting $930 billion worth of that spending. That's their savings. That means they're saving. They're saying savings instead of saying cutting, right? I think people aren't understanding the wordplay. 930 billion is being cut. Green energy, don't really care about. They're cutting 488 billion. Food benefits, they're cutting $287 billion. We're talking millions of Americans are about to lose benefits. Good luck. Good luck. This is like, I don't really care about anything else that's happening in bills. Like, I think one of the biggest things that blew my mind is I was reading the BBC and they were saying that people who have or own their own personal jets are going to be able to 100% write them off if they buy a jet in 2026.
Because of what?
That's part of the tax cut. That's one of the things inside the tax cut. The jet can be 100% be written off, meaning it's basically a free jet. It's a free technically.
Free.
But the incentive is spend the hundreds of millions for the jet, spend money for the gas, and we'll give you the money back at the end of the year for the jet after you done spent money for the gas, the trips, the whatever, and you own the jet. And we'll give you the jet for free. So you get 100 million, whatever a jet costs, right? I don't think it's $100 million. I think it's like
Probably a couple million,
couple million.
depending on how big you want.
Yeah. You'll get that money back at the end of the year. So you're willing to cut Medicaid and food benefits, but you're giving jets away to millionaires, billionaires for free.
I think no matter how you cut it, like there's always going to be the people that are educated enough to get around the system, no matter how difficult the system is to get around. And then the people that just don't understand the system end up taking the fall for
I
the
get that.
majority of people.
That's capitalism at its finest.
Yeah. Because like
But to cut food benefits though, bro,
yeah,
and to openly know that you're giving millionaires a free fucking cut the Medicaid. Cut the Medicaid, cool, whatever. The food, bro,
yeah.
something that we like. I was watching what's the kid from That's So Raven? He went crazy. Orlando. I was
Oh, is he a
watching.
heavier guy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was watching him on a podcast, and like he says a lot of crazy shit. Orlando says a lot of crazy shit. But the one thing that he did said that blew my mind is like God gave us a lot of this food for free. He gave us grapes, apples. He was like, apples? He gave us grapes for free? You motherfuckers. You're gonna burn in hell when I get through with you. He said, that's what he said, right? It was the funniest shit. I'm gonna show you the video after the pod, but that was the funniest shit that I've ever seen in my life. But in a sense, he's not wrong. A lot of this food is free. It does not cost anything to make food if we actually took the time to grow it and go out and pick it. But there's so many patents, there's so much stuff that they make you pay for. And the one thing that you're going to do is take away food from millions of Americans, bro. Like I don't know. I just think that's fucking crazy. To make us pay for water and pay for food, I do think that's a little insane. Whatever, capitalism, you want to make a buck, but to take away food benefits from people that actually need it, I don't care if there's a few people that's abusing the system. Every system gets abused
Yeah.
on every level.
Yeah.
You're going to penalize poor people because they're abusing the system that they're already being abused for. Like you're already fucking them over, right? There's not enough jobs out here for them. A lot of them can't get jobs because they don't have the education. Some of them lived in horrible areas, which they didn't get a chance to actually get a job because they don't have a high school diploma. They weren't able to go to college because they couldn't get the funding. I'm not saying like these are all excuses, but this is a reality of what some people actually have to go through, right? You make it so difficult for some of them to get jobs and they turn to a life of crime, right? Like I am on the little person side. I don't care how much money I ever make. I'll always be on the little person side because I can see the narrow windows that some people have, right? Because a lot of it, I saw one of my friends say it's also not just what you know, it's also about who you know. I see a lot of people that get opportunities that shouldn't have the fucking opportunity is because they know people. They're in positions of a better life because you know someone.
Yep.
Not because you're smarter than this person. I know some of the biggest piece of shits that are living the life that you would have thought was granted by God. It's not even the case. It's because your fat ass knew someone. like,
Yep.
make it make sense. You know? So it's like when I see things like this makes me mad. Like, do I think the tax cut budget needed to be changed? Absolutely. If you're going to cut Medicaid, have something to replace it. The green energy cut, I don't really give a fuck about any of that. But to cut food benefits across the country, white, black, Puerto Rican, Asian, Palestinian, I don't give a fuck what color you are. To take food out of the mouth of children, bro, that's just evil shit. I don't care if you're white in a trailer park. I don't care if you're a black kid in the hood. Taking food out of any child's mouth is crazy. And for people to sit up there and talk about like this isn't a problem, for the majority of Republicans to vote for this, to hand clap like they were doing something amazing, is insane. That's my only grapple. It's really the food benefits. Everything else is that's politics, right? But for food, bro, like nigga, you need food too. Like you need food to eat. You don't think they need, even if they are eating junk food, if they're using food stamps to go get junk, who cares? Let them eat because when people can't feed themselves, I don't know. That's my rant. That's all I have to say about that. I'm not really a fan of cutting food benefits in any way. They could have left that alone. 287 billion you're cutting. Where's the money going? That's another question. You're cutting all of this money. Where's it going now? It's going somewhere.
Well, I figured the whole intention of cutting anything was just to pay back the debt that you owe. So, like, I mean, that's the idea.
That's the idea. They're not doing that. There hasn't been one mention of them saying that this money is going back to the debt. I haven't heard one politician, Democrat or Republican. So, and then you got this. I hate this fucking woman. White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt reacts to the bill passing with one word message on social media: "Victory, victory." Who the fuck? Like, I hate her. I hate her so much. I cannot stand. That might be the only blonde woman that I think I've ever disliked in my life. Like, I've never, like, I see her face and I cannot stand it. I cannot stand her face. You ever watch Step Brothers?
Yeah.
He was like, you have such a punchable face. Yeah, but okay, that's the pod. 16 flights up. You guys be well, be safe. Let us know in the comments how you feel about this. Tell me your takes. This is the bill, and I would advise you guys to just go through the bill and just read it. The best way to fix a lot of this is being aware of the situation, not complaining about it, but actively doing something about it. There's always a solution to a problem. And yeah, be well.